Okay, so let's unpack this. I want you to close your eyes for a second. Imagine the most expensive sound in the world. What are you hearing? A jet engine exploding, maybe? Or the stock market bell crashing?
It's a trick question, isn't it?
It is, because the most expensive sound in the world is actually silence.
Ah,
Specifically, the silence of a massive construction site that has stopped working.
that is a chilling sound for anyone in the industry. I mean, absolutely chilling.
Right. Imagine you're building a billion-dollar hydroelectric dam. You've got thousands of workers, cranes renting for $10,000 a day, and then everything stops.
All because two people in suits disagree on something small.
Exactly. Who pays for a slightly different type of rebar?
Yeah.
And because of that one argument, the lawyers swarm in, the cranes rust, and the money just burns.
That really is the nightmare scenario. And for a long time, that was the reality. Disputes were the anchor that just dragged entire projects down.
But today, we are looking at the document that tries to cut that anchor. We are doing a deep dive into the FIDIC Red Book 2017, and we are zooming in on Clause 21.
The rules of engagement for when things go wrong.
Yes. And the mission for this deep dive is to understand how this contract tries to do something that seems, psychologically impossible.
Which is?
Forcing sworn enemies to keep building together while they fight.
It is a mechanism for forced cooperation. That's a good way to put it. It shifts the industry from just fighting fires to, well, preventing them entirely.
And at the center of all this is an acronym that I honestly thought sounded like some weird 90s techno beat. The DAAB.
The DAAB, yes. It stands for Dispute Avoidance Adjudication Board.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting right off the bat. In the old versions of this contract, the 99 version, it was just the DAAB, Dispute Adjudication Board.
Right.
But in 2017, they added a letter. They added the A for avoidance.
And that is the aha moment right there. It seems like a small change, but it signals this massive shift in philosophy. The old DAB was a firefighter. You called them when the house was already burning.
The new DAB is a fire marshal.
Exactly. They are there to make sure the fire never even starts.
Okay, so let's test that theory. If this board is supposed to prevent fires, they can't just show up on the day of the argument.
No, by then it's too late. Everyone's already angry.
So subclause 21.1, the Constitution of the DAB, it says the timeline is aggressive.
It is. The parties must appoint the board members within the time stated in the contract data, but if it's blank, the default is 28 days.
28 days after the contractor gets the letter of acceptance.
28 days.
That's incredibly fast. I mean, at 28 days, they haven't even poured the foundation. They're still setting up the porta potties, and they have to hire their judges.
But think about the psychology of that. At day 28, the employer and the contractor are still in the, let's call it the honeymoon phase.
Right. They're optimistic. Everyone's shaking hands.
That is the only time they will be rational enough to agree on neutral experts. If you wait until the arguments start, it's just too late.
That makes sense. It's like a prenup, but you have to hire the marriage counselor on the day of the wedding.
That is a cynical but a pretty accurate analogy, yeah. The idea is to have the board in place before any bad blood develops.
So who are these people? Are they actual judges?
Not usually, no. They are often senior engineers with legal training or maybe construction lawyers with a lot of technical knowledge. You can have one, a sole member, but for big projects, the default is 3.
3 people. Okay, and right there I can see a problem. I'm the contractor. I want a guy who favors me. You're the employer. You want someone who protects your budget. How do we pick 3 people without, killing each other?
The mechanism is designed to balance that bias. Subclause 21.1 outlines it. The employer nominates one, the contractor nominates one, but, and this is the key, each side has to approve the other's choice.
So I can veto your guy if I know he's a shark.
Exactly. You can't just pick your best friend. And then once those 2 are in place, they consult with the parties and agree on the 3rd member, the chairperson.
But what if I'm cynical? I'm a contractor. I know I'm going to run late. I don't want a board watching me. Can I just stall? Just refuse to agree on a chairperson.
A classic delay tactic, but FIDIC anticipated that. If you look at subclause 21.2, failure to appoint, there is a failsafe.
An appointing entity. That sounds ominous.
It's more like a benevolent dictator. Usually it's the president of FIDIC or a big arbitration institute. If you're deadlocked, you write to them, pay a fee, and they just appoint someone for you.
And I can't object to their choice.
Nope. The clause says the appointment is final and conclusive. The board gets formed whether you like it or not.
I love that. It's like a parent stepping in.
Yeah.
Now, what about money? These experts aren't cheap. Who pays them?
A very important point. The remuneration is strictly regulated. It's a 50-50 split. Each party pays 1/2.
So they work for the project, not for the person writing the checks.
Precise.
Okay, so the board is in place. They're on the payroll. Now we get to that new letter, the A for avoidance. Subclause 21.3. How does this actually look in real life?
This is, in my opinion, the most transformative part of the 2017 edition. It allows the parties to jointly ask the DAI to provide assistance or informally discuss an issue.
Informally discuss.
Yeah.
That sounds incredibly vague for a multi-million-dollar legal contract.
It's intentionally vague. Imagine the board members walking the site, not in robes, but in hard hats. They're experienced engineers. They might look at a retaining wall and say, hey, the way you're reading the soil report there, that looks risky.
So they're spotting the smoke before there's a fire.
Exactly, giving a heads up. But here's the part that trips people up. This advice is completely non-binding.
Wait, so I could just ignore it?
You can. You can listen to them say you're wrong, and you can say thanks for the input and keep on doing exactly what you were doing.
Then what's the point? If it has no teeth, isn't it just expensive chatter?
It has no legal teeth, but it has huge psychological weight. Remember, these are the same 3 people who will formally judge you later if this becomes a real dispute.
Ah. Okay, so if I ignore their friendly advice and 6 months later I come back asking for money because the wall fell down,
They're going to look at you and say, we told you so. It's a preview of the verdict. But the contract gives the board a safety net here, too.
how so?
It says the DAB shall not be bound in any future dispute resolution process by any views or advice given.
So that protects them. It allows them to be honest in the avoidance phase without worrying they're prejudging the case.
Exactly. It creates a safe space to solve problems before the lawyers get involved.
But, human nature being what it is, advice isn't always enough. The friendly chat fails, the avoidance doesn't work, now we have a real fight.
Yes. When avoidance fails, we move to subclause 21.4, obtaining DAB's decision. This is where the velvet gloves come off.
And looking at the timeline here, the clock starts ticking immediately.
It does. Subclause 21.4.3 says the DAB must give its decision within 84 days of getting the reference.
84 days, less than 3 months.
For construction, that is lightning fast. A traditional court case could take 3, 4, 5 years.
But here, you need an answer, and you need it now.
And speaking of money, I saw a detail in there about the board's own payment that made me laugh. It's a bit of a power move.
The invoicing provision.
Yes. It says that if the DAB hasn't been paid their invoices in full, they don't have to give their decision. They can hold the verdict hostage until the check clears.
It's a very practical lever. It ensures the board maintains its independence right up to the end.
So let's say everyone pays up, the decision comes down, the DAB says, contractor, you're wrong. Is that the end of it?
This is where we get into the most misunderstood concept in the whole book. The difference between a decision being binding and final and binding.
Let's break that down. The clause says the decision is binding on both parties who shall promptly comply with it.
Right. Promptly comply, even if you hate it. So even if I think the decision is complete garbage and I plan to fight it, I still have to comply right now.
Yes. Immediate compliance. It's the pay now, argue later principle.
That seems incredibly harsh. What if the board is just wrong?
The logic is that cash flow is the lifeblood of a project. If every dispute paused payments, the project would die. MPEI prioritizes project continuity over immediate justice.
You pay now to keep the cranes moving.
And if you're right, you get your money back later with interest.
Okay, so binding means do it now, but it doesn't mean it's over forever.
Correct. And if you're unhappy, you have to act fast. We need to talk about the NOD.
The notice of dissatisfaction. This subclause 21.4.4 seems like a trap.
It is absolutely a trap, of a guillotine, really. If you're dissatisfied, you have exactly 28 days to issue an NOD.
And if I'm busy and I forget to send that letter within 28 days?
Then the door slams shut. The decision becomes final and binding.
Final. Set in stone.
You can never, ever fight it again. It doesn't matter if it was wrong. If you missed that window, you've accepted it forever.
That is terrifying. One missed calendar reminder and you could lose millions.
It happens. But let's say you do file the NOD. You say, I'm complying, but I'm not happy. You can't just run straight to court.
No, because FIDIC really wants you to settle this yourselves.
Exactly. We go to subclause 21.5, amicable settlement. There's a mandatory cooling off period of 28 days.
It's like sending a couple to a retreat before letting them file for divorce.
Effectively, yes. It forces the parties to sit down one last time and ask, do we really want to spend millions on arbitration?
But if that fails, if avoidance failed, adjudication failed, and the settlement fails.
Mm-hmm.
Then, and only then, do we get to Clause 21.6.
Arbitration.
The last resort. And this is where the arbitrator has full power to open up, review, and revise anything.
So they can look at the DAAB's decision and just tear it up.
Completely. They can overturn it. They hear the case from scratch.
Unless,
Unless, of course, that decision became final and binding because you missed your 28-day deadline. If it's final, even the arbitrator can't touch it. So the DAAB is like the trial court, and arbitration is the Supreme Court.
loosely, yes. But an arbitrator sitting in Geneva 3 years later is going to take a decision made by 3 experts on site very, very seriously.
Right. Now, a couple of what-ifs. What if one side just refuses to comply? The DAE says, pay $1 million, and the employer just says, make me.
That's subclause 21.7, failure to comply. This is a shortcut. If a party ignores a binding decision, the other party can go directly to arbitration just to enforce it.
It short-circuits the system just for enforcement.
Yes. The arbitrator isn't re-arguing the case. They're just saying, the board told you to pay. Now pay.
Powerful. Okay, last one. Subclause 21.8, no DAB in place.
This covers when the system has broken down. Maybe the member's appointments expired, or maybe they were never appointed in the first place.
So there's no board to go to.
Correct. In that case, you skip the DAB step and go straight to arbitration. It shows the DAB is preferred, but the contract doesn't break without it. You just have to take the slower, more expensive path.
Which brings us back to the start. When you step back and look at Clause 21 as a whole system, what's the core message?
I think the core message is that conflict is inevitable, but work stoppage is optional.
Work stoppage is optional. I like that.
The entire system prioritizes project continuity over being right. The pay now, argue later rule, the informal assistance.
Yeah.
Everything is designed to keep the cranes moving and the cash flowing.
It's a mechanism for forced cooperation. You can fight, but you have to fight in this specific box on this timeline, and you have to keep paying the bills while you do it.
Exactly. It removes the ability to use a dispute as a weapon to stop work. And by adding that A for avoidance, they made it clear the best dispute is the one that never happens.
It's a fascinating model. And it leaves me with this lingering thought for everyone listening. The genius here is forcing communication before positions harden.
It inserts friction into the process of escalating a fight.
Right. And you have to wonder, would this work in other high-stakes relationships? Could we have a marriage avoidance and adjudication board or a political dispute board?
You mean a panel of 3 wise people who step in and say, informally, you're both being unreasonable before you're allowed to file for divorce.
Exactly. Or a board that says you can't shut down the government until you've had a 28-day cooling off period.
It is an appealing idea, but you have to ask, does the success of this system rely on the wisdom of the advice? Or does it rely entirely on the threat of that binding financial decision waiting in the wings?
The power of the purse.
Exactly. I suspect people listen to the DAB not just because they're wise, but because they have the power to sign the checks. Wisdom is nice, but leverage is better.
That's a cynical but probably accurate conclusion.
Yeah.
Something to mull over. Thanks for diving deep with us into the world of Clause 21.
It was a pleasure.
See you next time.
If you're interested in the templates, please visit our shop. The link is in the description.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and see next time.